Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So there's a gentleman named Lionel Nation. Now I have to be honest, I don't necessarily know who Lionel Nation is. I saw him on RT, and when I went to check out his channel, somebody put a link to it. It's funny. He's my first introduction to him was essentially something I disagree with him on, so that's my introduction to him. That's my thing. I listened to him out though. So this is a conversation on net neutrality. He's okay with net neutrality. He thinks removing net neutrality will bring freedom. He even did a video. The FCC will call net neutrality, and here's why liberty and freedom will be the beneficiaries. Liberty and freedom. Liberty and freedom. These big epic words that I would imagine that most people don't know what they mean. And that's not me putting anybody down. That's because those things mean what you want those things to mean. That they're so expansive. They're so epic. It's when Obama was talking about hope and change. What did Obama mean by hope and change? And was the incremental tweaks that he made to the governmental apparatus, was that Obama's idea of hope and change? All I'm saying is these are large, expansive words. When I see large and expansive words, I get immensely dubious about what I'm about to be told. I disagree with him. I could not disagree with him more about what he's saying on this video, and I'm going to show what he's saying on this video because Lionel has a pretty decent, big following. Yeah, I'm gonna let him make his own case. Like I said, I couldn't disagree with him more. It's almost this breathless inability to grasp the way corporations behave. Even while at the exact same time he's bringing up stuff about what other corporations are doing that is kind of limiting free speech and so forth, he is completely and breathlessly taking this idea that this is now new. This is freedom. This is freedom. It's like Republicans making this argument about healthcare, removing healthcare being freedom. You have the freedom to die on the street without healthcare. When people use this term freedom, the conversation or the questions that you always should ask is freedom for who and freedom to do what? When you hear the word freedom, that should be the question that you're going to ask. Let's take a look at him. Let's see what he's saying. And by the way, I don't know Lionel's politics, so I'm not necessarily saying he's in the bag one side or the other on this. So I'm not adding in that he's biased or anything. I just think he's massively wrong. There's a difference in those things. Let's take a look.
To have the net neutral, for God's sakes. What are you, some kind of a draconian fool? What are you, a nut? A lunatic? Net neutrality? My God, we're all for net neutrality. What the hell is the matter with you? Okay. Here are some classic names of great pieces of legislation that sounded terrific then. The Affordable Care Act, the Patriot Act, No Child Left Behind, USA Freedom Act, and now net neutrality. Remember, one of Lionel's many laws. There's an inverse proportionality to the sound of the name of the legislation and how it benefits us. Okay, now, let me give this analogy to you in this hypothetical. See if this can help explain this, okay? Now, in view of, or some say in lieu of, this nonsense is somehow Netflix or who is it, or Comcast or Verizon or AT&T is going to somehow throttle something and slow something down and not suffer any repercussions from it, okay? Let's imagine, and it's an old analogy, but it's the best one. Let's assume that FedEx turns to Amazon and Bezos and says, you know what? I'm getting tired. We're getting tired of having to deliver all of your stuff and all of your goods and all of your next day delivery and your parcels and your this and your Prime and all that. Just, in fact, 90%, hypothetically, of our stuff is you. We want you to pay more. Buy more trucks. Buy more infrastructure. Buy more warehouse space so we can, support this incredible amount of work that we're doing delivering your stuff. If Amazon says, no, we're not gonna charge us anymore, fine. So let's assume hypothetically that FedEx says, okay, what we're gonna do is this. You know that 1 day guaranteed stuff? We're gonna make it 2 days, maybe 3 days, maybe 4. Now, you as a consumer, with whom will you show your distaste? Would it be Amazon or would it be FedEx? Would you go to Amazon and say, hey, how come you're not paying FedEx more money? We heard what's going on and we're getting our stuff late. What's the matter with you, Amex? Why don't you pay FedEx more money for the infrastructure, the trucks, and the manpower, and this incredible additional labor that's being used to deliver my stuff? And, of course, you'll pass it on to me in terms of the cost. Or will the consumer go to FedEx and say, wait a minute, how come you're charging them more? We're not too crazy about you, FedEx. What's going on here, FedEx? What's going on here? No, 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 no. No, you're not going to do this. You're not going to. That's what happened. And if you have a problem with Comcast, Verizon, or AT&T, and I know in some cases the argument is that, well, in some places, it's just a monopoly. Oh, really? So so consumers have no ability to complain? Is that it?
Yes. Yes, that's it. That's it. That's exactly it. That's the problem with this. Do you know how many carriers I have in my region of the world? I think we have one. I think we have one. In one of the other places where the business was located, one of the companies that I consulted at, you know how many carriers or choices of carriers they had? One. They had one. They had one. You can complain, but you understand that if your business completely relies on this idea of internet access and the only carrier that you have is one potential ISP, what are you going to do? What are your complaints worth at that point when you're stuck and forced to use that particular service? This argument is insane to me. I don't understand why you believe that people have all these choices. Yes, you can bitch and moan and complain about anything you want. How many people bitched and moaned at the FCC to not get rid of net neutrality? Did they listen? Did they have to listen? What was the stick that they were going to use to get them to listen? What was the stick? Do you understand that people complain about their service all the time? I complain about my service all the time. Do you understand what that does? Nothing. Zero. Zero. Complaints only work when there's alternatives. When there are no alternatives, those complaints are meaningless. Let's keep going.
You have no way of saying, hey, stop this. We're going elsewhere, or we're going to go to our Congress people, or whatever. We're going to complain. Is that it? See, that's the line that you're given. That this protects you, because if one day Comcast, Verizon, AT&T decide to do this and to wax draconian, somehow you, the consumer, will be the victim of this. Let me also say to you, since when can a private, relatively private, we'll get to this maybe not so much because there used to be a utility, but anyway, but when can an organization, when can something not provide special deals for its provisions? When was the last time you were offered extra money or extra leg room for a price? When was the next time you were charged? Oh, you want to up your service, bump your rate? You want to improve this? You want to upgrade? We'll pay you? Oh, you want different service? You want different speed? Oh, you want to get there faster? Oh, are planes more expensive for nonstop flights versus connecting? I mean, everywhere you go, common sense and the market provides for incentives for you to buy extra services. So you're telling me that Comcast, Verizon, and AT&T can't do this? I mean, is that what you're suggesting? Or do...
Yeah, dude, I understand the argument. The issue here is not so much that they can't necessarily provide special services. I think what people are concerned about is the internet is not like an airplane seat. It's not, we've gotten to the point where the internet, you can make an argument, is kind of like electricity or kind of like roads or whatever. I'm just making this point that at this point it's become somewhat of a vital interest. You have tons of businesses that are online, tons of businesses that will start online, and they use this vital service as their medium of interaction. Now, you are making this case as if, excuse me, companies can choose to do XYZ. In most of the cases, yeah, companies can choose to do XYZ. What people complain about, their issue with this is, are they going to do things that are going to massively disadvantage one side versus another side based on their own profit motive? For example, say for instance, you have a store, you have an area around the globe, that particular area runs a drought for whatever reason, there's not much clean water, and one person says, look, I have a ton of water and I'll sell you each 16-ounce bottle for $1,000 a piece. Can that guy do that? Is the state going to allow that guy to rape the public to the degree that he's going to rape the public in order to maximize his profits? Now, yes, you can say that the marketplace pushes that particular behavior, because the marketplace does push that behavior, the marketplace and low morals. Why do you believe, with this vital interest, with this thing that there are not a lot of carriers for, meaning it's somewhat of a It's a small subset that has. There's a small subset of providers for this particular service. Why do you believe that they're not going to take the same behavior of how can we maximize our profit with this particular thing that not many people have access to? That's what I don't get. It's not about whether or not these companies can provide extra legroom, if you want to say that. It's about whether or not we as a society, with this particular vital interest, want companies to be allowed to essentially make determinations on who to speed up or who to slow down based upon, well, not just monetary factors, but I'm going to make a point later, but other factors. He's going to bring up something about providers like Google and Facebook and so forth. And there is a breathless level of saying something, but not necessarily fully aware of the repercussions of the things that you're saying. Because I would make the case that the argument that he's going to make later essentially kills this particular argument. Let's keep going though.
Do they what? They enjoy some kind of status that disenables them from doing that. Okay, fine. Now, next. The real people here, the most important in our world, are edge providers. Not ISPs, but edge providers. Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon. Those are the people that we really deal with. We deal with ISPs, but the people that we are dealing with most in terms of the amount of information that is leveraged, the amount of information that is censored, the amount of information that is kept and embargoed and limited and frozen and all of that. Those people are edge providers. And guess what? In none of this legislation are they even, they're not even considered. They're not even there. They're not even a part of this. Nowhere in any of this whatsoever are they even so much as mentioned. How is that? How can that be? Why? Because Soros and these individuals, and by the way, they had more, Soros and Silicon Valley and these tech folks had more access to Obama than Lois Lerner did. I mean, they owned him. So what they do is they're going after not edge providers, they're going after ISPs. And what they're doing is they're trying to do two things, the government. Number one, they're trying to throttle and limit the internet because the genie's out of the bottle. Number two, they want to limit conservative, Republican, libertarian, non-preferred speech and the like. And they also want to give incredible power, more power and control to the edge providers, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon. That's what needs to be done. That's what's happening right now. So what you do is this legislation is passed to give them the benefit. How is that? I'll explain. First, as I said, they're not included in the legislation. Next, this is one of the greatest things which...
Wait, that doesn't make sense. He believes they're getting a benefit because they're not included in the legislation. I don't understand how... I guess he's trying to make the point that they should be included in the legislation. I'm going to put his video at the bottom so you can hear his entire point. But you have a capitalistic enterprise. That capitalistic enterprise is going to try to find every crook and cranny that he can to maximize his profit, and it's going to be at our expense. That's what it boils down to. I understand he has this point. Look, the overwhelming majority of the population is against us. Overwhelming. And you're telling me that why is this up first? Why is this on the agenda? If the overwhelming majority of the population is against this, how does the FCC say that they're working in the interest of the American public when the American public is completely against the actions that the FCC has taken? You have a small segment of people who are making a determination for the rest of the entire country. That is fucking amazing. And they're going against the will of the entire country. That's the first part. The second part is Google, Facebook, and Twitter have been shadow banning people. Now, these are also capitalistic enterprises. And in these capitalistic enterprises, they try to find ways to maximize their profit. Part of that maximize their profit is political clout. Political clout. Meaning, yeah, he's right. Google, Facebook, and Twitter were ostensibly immensely obsequious to the Democratic Party. So much so that the lefties who were going after Hillary Clinton in regards to her emails and all this other stuff were blocked They were not showing content to people, meaning people were searching for things. Hillary Clinton emails, Hillary Clinton war, Hillary Clinton whatever. And they would block certain content that should have came up when those people were out there looking for very specific information. Same thing on Facebook, same thing on Twitter. Going so far as to shadow ban RT or articles from RT or videos from RT. They did this for political reasons. They had a dog in the hunt. And because they had a dog in the hunt, it was a side that they were backing. They were using that political clout in order to turn down certain voices that they didn't want to hear. Now, you're telling me that you believe that ISPs, that they're somehow going to do something different, that they're not going to behave just like Facebook and Google and Twitter when their own interest is being threatened, meaning they have the capacity to turn down certain things that they don't want you to hear, that they don't want to get across. And look, this is not even the part of making deals to give people higher coverage or higher costs, so other people trying to get into the market will have a higher bar in order to get into the market with, or making deals with one particular vendor, meaning somebody else doesn't necessarily get the same service as everybody else, as a larger company that's willing to pay more. That just seems massively unfair. If you're talking about the internet itself, the internet is not an airline seat. It's not an airline seat. It's not about extra space and extra room. We're talking about a medium in which all of these people interact in a digital space. And that medium at this point is vitally important to our society and to our life and our livelihood. The question is, will ISPs try to maximize their profit? And yes, their corporation, of course, is going to try to find ways to maximize their profit. Is that going to be at the expense of everybody else? And of course, that answer is going to be yes. If you complain to them, do you believe that that complaint will matter one iota in the same way that your complaints matter now? If there are only a few or a handful of ISPs, and in my area, like I said, there's only one. In Ashland, at the place where I used to work, there was only one. Many of these places, you have one or two carriers to choose from, which means, yes, they have a monopoly at this point. And you've just given them the ability to turn down speeds, or to, what they would call offer additional speeds or services, but ultimately to be able to turn down certain sites that they don't necessarily like because of the content that those sites are providing. To turn down certain sites if they're not going to pay this kind of stipend or pay this extra charge to get a particular speed of their competitor. You have this bidding war of sorts because one corporation is going to try to find ways to advantage itself over some other corporation, meaning, yes, of course, inevitably, it's going to lead to them charging more for the service. Can't believe you're on board for this. Can't believe you're on board for this. Screw what the rest of the world or the American public wants. And yes, I understand that the internet is not a phone line. Fair enough. I don't know what that has to do with ISPs having the capacity to now charge people more or dilute certain freedom of speech content. I don't like what this guy is saying. This guy is saying things that are against our best interests. Let's turn you down a little bit. Let's turn you down a little bit. Or if you want this particular package, you can get at this particular speed, meaning Netflix plays faster than some other new service that's coming onto the market. It's like, that's problematic, man. That's all I'm saying. I understand his point, but come on. I remember I had this argument of this freedom and liberty by giving the ISPs the ability to fuck over your service. That's not freedom, dude. That's not freedom. Liberty has nothing to do with this. I had an argument with a friend of mine. It's not an argument. Argument is too strong. But we were going back and forth over this thing of power systems. I said our energy infrastructure, we need to nationalize the energy markets. And he was like, what? We can't do that. That's giving the government too much power. And it's like, so yes, you prefer the 1% have all that power. You prefer the 1% have all that power. It's amazing to me. People talk about freedom and all this other stuff, and usually they're talking about freedom for somebody else to have a bunch of shit, and you have no access to that particular thing that other person has. It's like, come on. At the very least, having that thing under the auspices of the government, you get some sort of say in what takes place for that particular entity or that particular enterprise. From a 1% standpoint, meaning one or small fraction of people owning the energy markets of an entire country, that's fucking amazing. I don't know why anybody would want that to take place. These guys are going to rape you over the coals for something that you need to survive. That is a national interest. I can make this argument that the internet is also aspect of that national interest is one of those things that's vitally important. So yes, it should stay free and open. It should stay free and open. You have a very tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of people who are going to benefit from this. It's not the rest of the American public. So I don't know what other stuff Lionel comes out with, but I think he's making a massive leap on this one. I don't understand his optimism. Yeah, I don't get his optimism. I think corporations are going to do what corporations do, which is try to maximize their profit. And in this particular case, all ways of maximizing profit go towards fucking you over, whether it's charging you more. And this idea that you're going to have some kind of say in this because you can bitch and complain. Do people bitch and complain about their service now? Yes. Doesn't matter. No. No. Ultimately, you're not in a situation where you can ever walk from that particular deal unless there's somebody else who's standing on the other side. And as a newsflash, even if you do have one other provider, so what? This is still somewhat of a monopoly at this point. You bitch to one, you bitch to the other. What are you going to do? Just go back to the other? You're stuck in a situation where you can't necessarily do without something. And you have a small segment, or you have a small subset of people who can provide that specific thing that you, for the most part, can't go without. Yes, net neutrality. It might have been imperfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than what's just taken place. So I will leave it at that. Yeah, I would say nationalize the internet. I mean, our tax dollars went into building that thing. I can't believe we don't necessarily have control over the apparatus. So, but yes, I'm far to the left. So fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I think this is going to be disastrous. That's my thought. I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong. And Lionel is welcome to come onto the show to make his point. He's never going to do this because he's never going to see this video. But he's more than welcome to come onto the show and make his case onto why he thinks that corporate interest is going to be this just kind of awesome integrity-filled thing in revolving around the internet. I don't understand why he thinks that. If he thinks Google, Facebook, and Twitter have been good stewards, then fair enough. But I would imagine he'd agree with me that these guys have been essentially banning content that they themselves don't like for political reasons. And if you're telling me that the ISPs are somehow better than the other corporations, I will think you're insane. I think corporations act in the interest of those corporations, not the social benefit. If that means that they're going to maximize their profits at the expense of the population, they're going to maximize their profits at the expense of the population. This has nothing to do with integrity. This has nothing to do with freedom and liberty and everything else. This has everything to do with a small segment of people making a ton of profit, with the rest or the overwhelming majority of the population saying no. That's what this has to do with. I don't know what Lionel was talking about. So I will leave it at that. He's more than welcome to come on the show to make his point. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. This went massively long. Jesus Christ, this went massively long. I just think the net neutrality thing is a big deal. And I like the internet being this kind of open frontier of sorts. I don't like this idea of getting corporate interests to stick its fingers into the process. I'm cynical on this because I've seen what Facebook, Twitter, and Google has done with that much influence and that much power. And now you've just given the keys to the kingdom to ISPs where they can turn down or manipulate or do whatever they want in similar ways. So I think that's problematic. I think that will bite us in the ass. And yeah, I do think there needs to be legislation to kind of put that in a category unto itself. So, all right, guys, have a good one.